Have you ever replayed the same thought 1,000 times at night? You lie in bed, the lights are off. The room is quiet, but inside your head, it feels louder than the busiest street. A single memory, a small mistake, or a sentence someone said begins to loop endlessly like a song you never wanted to hear again. You turn from side to side trying to push it away, but the harder you resist, the stronger it returns. The body is tired, yet the mind refuses to rest. This is the silent struggle of overthinking. It steals, sleep drains peace, and makes the night feel heavier than the day. Thoughts multiply in the dark, weaving scenarios, regrets, and fears until they form a cage that traps you. And when the morning comes, you rise already exhausted, as if you carried a weight through the night. You may think you are alone in this battle, but you are not. Millions around the world are caught in the same spiral, replaying the past or worrying about a future that hasn't arrived. Tonight, this story is for you. A story to show that even in the endless noise of the mind, there is a way back to stillness. In a quiet monastery, hidden among pine trees, the nights were often still broken only by the sound of insects and the distant call of owls. Most of the monks would rest peacefully after a day of chanting meditation and simple work. Yet one young novice found himself awake long after the others had drifted into sleep. He would lie on his thin mat, staring into the shadows, feeling his thoughts run in circles until his chest grew tight. No matter how he turned or how deeply he breathed, the thoughts would not let him go. One evening, after hours of restless tossing, he quietly rose and walked to the chamber of his master. The old Zen master was seated upright, his back straight, his breath calm, as if he had been waiting. The boy knelt and whispered, "Master, I cannot sleep. My head keeps repeating everything from the day. Words I heard, mistakes I made, things I fear tomorrow." His eyes were wide and tired, and his voice carried the weight of despair. The master looked at him gently, as if he already understood. The master did not scold him for disturbing the night, nor did he offer quick comfort. Instead, he picked up a small clay bowl from beside his mat and filled it with water. Holding it out, he asked, "If you try to hold this water tightly in your hands, what will happen?" The boy frowned, imagining the liquid slipping through his fingers. The master continued, "The tighter you clutch, the more you lose. The mind is no different. The harder you grip your thoughts, the more restless they become." The novice lowered his eyes, uncertain. He had always believed that to stop thinking, he had to force his mind into silence, yet forcing only seemed to make it louder, like a drum beaten harder in resistance. The master rose slowly, his robe brushing the floor like a quiet stream. With a nod, he signaled for the boy to follow him outside into the moonlit courtyard. The air was cool, carrying the fragrance of pine and earth after a long summer day. Above them stretched a sky, vast and dark, scattered with stars. The moon, nearly full, cast silver light across the tiled roofs of the monastery and the stone path at their feet. The master pointed to the sky, where clouds drifted slowly across the moon's face. Some were thin, dissolving in moments. Others were heavy, carrying shadows as they passed. The boy watched his breathing slowing as the silence wrapped around them. The master's voice broke the stillness, soft but clear. "See these clouds. They come, they change, they go. Yet the sky remains. Your thoughts are like the clouds. Do not fight them. Watch them." The boy lifted his face, his tired eyes reflecting the moonlight. For the first time that night, he was not chasing thoughts or trying to drive them away. Instead, he simply noticed how they rose and faded, much like the drifting clouds. Some were dark, some were light, but none stayed forever. A sense of relief loosened the tension in his shoulders as though he had been carrying a burden that was never his to hold. The master placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "You are not the thought, you are the sky." They stood together in silence for a long while. The boy's breathing became steady, his heart no longer racing. The world had not changed, his mistake still existed tomorrow, still waited, but something within him had shifted. He felt space, where once there had been only noise. He understood in a way beyond words that the night was not his enemy, nor were the thoughts. They were passing guests, and he was the host who did not need to cling to them. When they returned to their room, the boy lay down once more on his mat. The shadows no longer felt threatening, and the silence no longer pressed heavily upon him. He closed his eyes, and though thoughts still came, he let them float like clouds across the open sky of his mind. Sleep arrived gently, like a soft rain falling after drought. The master remained seated, watching with a faint smile, knowing that a seed of wisdom had been planted in the boy's restless heart. The following night, the young novice sat quietly in the courtyard after evening prayers. He remembered his master's words and lifted his gaze toward the sky. Clouds floated across the moon once again, each shape shifting and dissolving into the vastness above. At first his mind tried to chase them, labeling each one, but then he realized none of them stayed. They came, they changed, and they passed, leaving the sky untouched. As he sat longer, he began to notice that his thoughts behaved in the same way. A memory surfaced sharp and insistent, but when he did not grasp it, it faded on its own. A worry about tomorrow crept in, but it too dissolved like a cloud thinning in the wind. For the first time, he understood that thoughts were not walls surrounding him, but travelers crossing his path. They did not belong to him, and he did not belong to them. When he shared this discovery with the master, the old man smiled knowingly. "You see, suffering is not the thought itself, but clinging to it," he said. "The thought is like a spark of lightning. It appears and vanishes. But if you hold it, if you replay it again and again, it burns you endlessly." His voice carried a calm certainty, like water flowing downhill without effort. The novice frowned slightly. "But master, how do I stop holding on? It feels impossible." The master shook his head gently. "Do not try to stop. That is like tightening the knot by pulling harder. Overthinking is just that, an endless struggle to untangle the mind with more struggle. Instead, let the knot loosen by itself when you stop pulling." The boy lowered his eyes, realizing how often he had been fighting his own thoughts, feeding the fire instead of letting it die out. They walked together along the garden path, stones cool underfoot, the scent of moss rising in the night air. The master continued, "Your suffering is not born from the presence of thoughts. It comes from the resistance from wishing they were not there. Your mind suffers because it resists the flow, just as a river grows violent when blocked by stones. When you stop resisting, the current finds its way forward." The boy felt the truth of these words settle inside him like a seed. For a moment, he recalled his worst nights of overthinking. He would scold himself. "Why can't I stop? Why am I so weak?" And yet those judgments only multiplied the noise. Now he realized that the anger he felt toward himself was part of the trap. He was fighting the very mind he wished to soothe. His master's lesson showed him that peace was not found in control, but in release. The old master paused beneath a pine tree, its branches heavy with needles that swayed against the night sky. "We call it desire anger and ignorance," he said softly, "but you do not need the words. You only need to see how they appear in your life. Desire is the wish to control every thought. Anger is the blame you place on yourself for not succeeding, and ignorance is believing you are nothing but those thoughts. See them, name them, and they lose their power. The novice listened intently, his chest no longer tight, his breath flowing evenly. As the night deepened, the boy noticed how his surroundings mirrored the lesson. The trees stood rooted, yet they did not resist the breeze. The river in the distance carried fallen leaves without complaint. Even the insects sang their fleeting songs without fear of silence. He began to understand life was teaching him through everything, not just through words. The master had only opened the door, he had to step through it himself. Later, as they returned to the hall, the master placed his hand on the boy's shoulder. "Remember," he whispered, "thoughts are clouds. You are the sky. Do not trade your vastness for a handful of passing shapes." The words settled deep in the novice's heart, not as a command, but as a truth he had witnessed himself. He knew the thoughts would return, perhaps even that same night, but he now carried a way to meet them differently. Instead of battle, he had discovered observation. Instead of fear, he had found space. That night, lying on his mat, the boy did not chase silence. He allowed the mind to wander, watching each thought drift in and out. Some were painful, some sweet, but all of them passed. He felt the stillness of the sky within himself, wide enough to hold it all without breaking. And slowly, with no resistance, sleep embraced him, not as a victory, but as a gift that came when he stopped struggling. When the young novice finally experienced stillness under the night sky, the master reminded him that wisdom means little if it stays only as an idea. The true power lies in practice small, steady actions that anyone can do even in the middle of a restless night. He explained that training the mind is not about forcing it into silence, but about creating gentle anchors that guide it back to peace. These anchors are simple, so simple that the restless mind might overlook them, but they carry a quiet strength. Tonight, you can try them for yourself. The first practice is called the pause breath. When you lie down and notice your thoughts racing, place one hand on your chest. Inhale slowly through your nose, feeling the breath expand like a calm tide rising. Then exhale gently through your mouth, letting your body soften as if it were releasing the day itself. Repeat this 3 times, not as a task to finish, but as an offering to your own heart. Each pause is a doorway that interrupts the endless cycle of thought. The master would often say, "This pause is your freedom." Freedom does not come from banishing thoughts, but from stepping out of their momentum. In those 3 breaths, you claim a moment that belongs only to you, no judgment, no demands, no noise. It is astonishing how something so small can feel like reclaiming an entire night. The novice learned that each time he paused with the breath, the grip of overthinking loosened just enough for rest to enter. The second practice is called cloud watching for the mind. Imagine yourself lying under an open sky. Each thought that comes, whether it is about work, family, or something you regret, becomes a cloud. Instead of chasing or fighting it, you simply give it a gentle name: work thought, family worry, old memory. Naming creates distance, reminding you that the thought is not who you are, it is only passing by. As you practice, you may notice some clouds moving quickly, while others seem to linger. Do not rush them away. Clouds always move when their time is done, and so do thoughts. The novice found great peace in this, realizing that even the heaviest worries could not stay forever. By observing instead of clinging, the mind slowly opened like the sky itself, vast, spacious, and free. In that space, overthinking had no ground to stand on. At first, the boy thought this practice was too simple to work, but simplicity is often what the restless mind resists because it cannot control it. The master reminded him, when you label a thought as just a thought, you free yourself from its illusion of permanence. That shift is subtle, but it is enough to turn a storm into a drifting cloud. Many nights, this alone was enough for the boy to fall asleep with a smile. The third practice is called the gratitude anchor. Before you close your eyes, recall one small thing from your day that you are grateful for. It does not need to be grand. Perhaps it is the taste of warm tea, the sound of laughter you overheard, or the comfort of your blanket. Hold that memory gently, as if you were placing a stone at the bottom of a river to steady the current. Gratitude does not erase worries, but it gives the heart a weight that keeps it from drifting endlessly. The novice tried this each night. Sometimes he was grateful for a kind word from another monk, sometimes only for the cool night air. Yet no matter how small, that gratitude changed the tone of his thoughts. Instead of spiraling into what was missing, his mind rested on what was already enough. Gratitude became a lamp, soft but steady, that guided him out of darkness when overthinking tried to return. These three practices: pause breath, cloud watching, and gratitude anchor are not complicated rituals. They are seeds, and seeds only grow when planted consistently. The master reminded the novice that he did not need to master them in one night. Even trying once was already a step toward freedom. Each night is an opportunity to practice again, to begin anew, to remind the heart that stillness is possible. If tonight you try nothing else, try pausing for 3 slow breaths. Let your body soften with the exhale. And remember that each pause is a gift of freedom. If a thought returns, name it gently and watch it drift like a cloud. And before your eyes close, hold one small gratitude in your heart, like a lantern. These are not promises of perfection, but pathways to peace. They will not silence the mind completely, but they will show you how to live beside it without fear. The story of the young novice is not only about one restless night in a monastery. It is about the nights we all face when thoughts circle endlessly and peace feels far away. The master's teaching was simple, yet it carried the weight of truth. You are not your thoughts. You are the sky, vast and calm, and thoughts are only passing clouds. When you remember this, the heaviness of overthinking begins to dissolve. If you try only one thing tonight, let it be the pause of 3 slow breaths. Do not underestimate its power. With each breath, you remind yourself that you have space, that you have a choice, and that you are more than the stories in your head. This small pause is not the end of your struggle, but the beginning of freedom. It is the doorway that leads from noise to stillness. Stress and overthinking will not vanish completely, nor do they need to. They will come again as clouds always return to the sky. But each time they appear, you now carry a way to meet them with gentleness, with patience, with awareness. In this way, what once felt like a curse becomes a teacher, and what once trapped you becomes a path toward awakening. May you rest tonight with ease. May your breath be your anchor, and may stillness return to your heart like a soft dawn after a long night.